We are live. Welcome to the RedBlue Pod number 85. With that being said, today will be very short. We will be covering Red Rooms, since I already talked about it. Uh, it will be mainly Cole sharing his opinion and take on the movie. We will also talk about Black Mirror and Lucifer. And now, before we keep going, I almost forgot something very important. Anyhow, how are you, Cole? Cole, what's going on? Is your
Oh,
mic
my
on?
bad. I forgot I was muted. But yeah, pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Cannot wait for next week. I will start a new formation. I will be supervisor, a job I deserve.
Oh, nice. That's
Anyhow,
awesome.
yeah, that's why I was very occupied yesterday and today. Like I had so many homeworks to do to be ready for next week. It's so
Yeah.
exciting. It's
Well, I'm also
amazing.
gonna basically what I'm gonna be doing after this stream started, and then I'm gonna write a bunch of notes down for basically like every topic left in the coming weeks, and then just send them to you because basically there's gonna be some things coming up where I don't know if I'll be able to show up to any of the streams left, sadly, because it's like irrelevant to like other things right now. I need to work on some like paperwork with a lot of things and like getting citizenship here, so that's gonna take a lot of work in weeks. So
Good luck with that, man.
yeah,
I hope
thanks.
everything will go your way.
Yeah, hope so too. But yeah, so there's only really like two main streams like planned out in this month that I'm even gonna like attend, which is the launch of Joker's thing, and then one other stream. So yeah, but that's about it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, I still might show up, but yeah, it's just in case so that I can't. But yeah, we'll
Well,
see.
that's still kind of good that you got it somewhere in your mind, so you are ready if that
Mhm.
happens,
Yeah,
and that sounds great.
yeah. So I
Uh,
guess which topic did you want to start off with first? I guess red rooms because you guys already
yeah,
did it. Oh, sure.
yeah,
Okay. So yeah. No, just as a funny side note though, and this isn't to take shots at him as a filmmaker overall, because I do still enjoy most of his films and don't hate the ones I still didn't enjoy as much. But, I was just like thinking the entire time while watching this, if this was Christopher Nolan directing it, he would just put loud ass music and frantic cuts everywhere. While
hell yeah,
while every character in the movie just acts like they're on fucking Broadway talking to the audience instead of real people. Because that's like a Nolan film. Uh, but anyway, yeah, I figured I would enjoy this film, but God, it was even better than I thought it would be. Such an excellent film. Wouldn't quite say it hit the same level for me as Anatomy of a Fall did, but just a tier below it. Just both such excellent, courtroom drama films, and I mean, not to say that's all the films are, but yeah, just I wish this got more award attention, but oh well. Yeah, I mean, my favorite part of the film is just like the actors in this. Thought they did a fantastic job. Uh, God, once again, which they got more award attention, but oh well. Yeah, I just love how this film is also just shot and visually and everything, and with the long cuts, especially all the courtroom scenes. And the narrative and the writing for this, and like the two sides of things, and how people on the outside, just showing like every layer to this, like how they get these opinions and thoughts on things of something that they don't fully know. Like it's really interesting. Anatomy of a Fall, accurately and perfectly kind of like portrayed like media judges and like bias and other stuff. Turn a case into where like the defendant is likely innocent, but into then that. Well, and then this film though kind of shows like the opposite of that to an extent. Like how it leads some people off of just like online threads and everything and just conspiracies into like believing somebody's innocent who's likely guilty. And yeah, again, the actress who just plays her did such a fantastic job. Can't say enough good things about her in this. And again, the tension of just all the technical levels, the sound design, editing, and everything just adds so much to this, and such like an engaging narrative. Just really loved it, and especially just the whole climax and ending of this too. And it also just really accurately portrays also just like the dark web. Like, I've seen a lot of films do such a poor, shitty ass job with that, but this does a great job with it. So happy with that.
So I gotta say something.
Hmm.
I haven't said it Tuesday. I was mainly focused on a lot of things because I was with Alex when we talked about it, and I will say something I didn't say yet. The acting was on point, and it's something that is very recurring in movies made in Quebec and in Canada in general. We have solid actor and actresses, so we have the cream of the crop, if we can call it that way. So that's something to praise. And again, I am not a fan of the movie industry from Quebec. I I don't really like many movies from Quebec. So this one is a true gem. I liked it so much. It felt like it was made somewhere else. Again, the actor did great job, but the story, the writing of the character, and the story itself was so appealing and well made that I forgot it was made here. It's just that good. And again, here in Quebec, most of our industry is driven toward comedy and drama. And sometimes you get these trailer, but it's rare. Like, I'm not joking. 90% of like cinema from Quebec is like either a comedy or drama. It's really like what they're doing here because it's
Hmm.
cheaper, and anyway, they don't make that for money here because usually we don't make the money back. It's really artists talking, but they talk about stuff they can relate to. So
You
that's
know,
why.
yeah. I mean, I guess this is like kind of like why so many filmmakers there just like always leave, like they never stay.
Yeah, because you just cannot, like, yes, they get money because like they have subvention from the government and stuff, but like it's not necessarily the movie themselves that bring money, it's really the government. And that's one thing I do appreciate from here, how they view some artists. But again, you need something solid, and that's the thing. It's not
Hmm.
anyone. Like, if I decide to make a movie tomorrow, maybe because I'm a nobody, they will not really give me the money. So this will be even harder, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually
So
it.
this like I think in Quebec it's basically like basically they kind of like use it as just like for like one film only, pretty much. Like a lot of filmmakers, and then to try to get noticed by studios elsewhere in the world, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I will repeat myself. Here in Quebec, most of the market is drama and comedy. And the other reason is the target audience. Like, if you go in theaters and stuff, when it's a production from here, like the advertisement about it is really aimed, um, because they know their target audience, which is either the old people or women. Let's be honest, that's the market here because they are the one filling the theaters. Usually they will bring their boyfriend. Yes, it happens, and sometimes there are men that go in theaters and stuff. But usually, like the true target audience here is either woman or like older people, like grannies and stuff, or granddaddies and stuff. So that's really the audience here. So that's why we really only have like comedy and drama here. And when we get that trailer that is Red Room, it's just stand out. It's well written with great characters and a great story, and there's a lot left open to interpretation. And I had that theory while watching. I will repeat what I already said, but my theory is we have a case where we have someone with a split personality. Both main characters are one, but there are different sides. So that was one of my theory on it, and I shared it with Alex. I was like Alex, the person making the movie, like ask him if I'm right on that, and he's like, oh, he will tell you that's up to you, and I'm like, okay, but still ask him. Um, because it really feels like there are two sides of one coin. One is they're looking at the proof, the fact, and that person don't really care that much for justice until the end. And that same side is not really connected that closely to the case, while the other person is like really involved, and at some point she realized, oh, she was wrong, and she just have that disconnect. So the way I can frame it is the moment the other side is leaving is the moment where the main character kind of no longer needs that desire to defend that person because she no longer thinks that person is innocent. So that's my read on the movie. I may be crazy, I may be wrong, but I like that movie so much. And I will repeat what I already said. Um, it's my second favorite movie we covered so far.
Yeah.
And gap between Triangle of Sadness and this one is very small. I can bet if I rewatch both, maybe I will swap them around. This is how much I liked Red Rooms. And again, I don't like cinema from here. It's not my cup of tea. Like there are some drama that are decent, but most of the
Yeah.
drama they are very manipulative. They play in family and your desire to connect with people. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't connect well with me. Like I like a lot of drama, but they don't force that family bond that almost every freaking production here in Quebec wants to do. So when I see Red Rooms, I don't feel like I'm watching something that was made here in Quebec. I just don't feel like that. And I will also go further with this. The trial felt like a true trial. Like both sides were good and competent lawyer, and the message about how media is using a serial murderer to like entertain was deep and interesting. Again, this movie has so many layers and depth. That's why Alex and I we talked about that movie a good like 40 to 50 minutes already. Like Tuesday, man, we had a great talk. I think he liked it as well. It was like that's movie analysis, and I'm like, yeah, you're damn right. Um, so yeah, highly recommend Red Rooms. And the other theory I had is by the end when she's kind of twisted by the case, I felt like she wanted to be one of these victims. The person that was not really linked and attached to the story wanted to be involved. Even if she wanted like the guilty to go in jail and stuff, she wanted to be part of the phenomenon.
Well,
The
yeah, she wanted kind of like, again, like power to like, feel responsible for, putting him away. Yeah. Which did in the end, but, couldn't had to do it anonymously because, it was illegal, that material. And honestly, it showed that possibly she was the one who did it to begin with, like with the other footage of the other two. So, since she had it. So that was kind of interesting. But, and this is pretty like accurate though, like how these things happen. Like there's so many of these incidents that just like has like info like this on flash drives just like leaked anonymously to the police, and this is like basically how it happens with these people.
Yeah, and this movie also depicts how obsession can really destroy someone. That person that wasn't involved that much out of life, she was a smart person, and she was a model, and she was making money out of it. And then because of that obsession she got through the trial, she kind of lost everything, and even her sanity, because she kind of started to be paranoid. She was
Hmm.
seeing everyone looking at her and spying on her, and it's psychological, and it's hilarious because that movie is amazing. And today, like when I went to see Argyle for next week, I see the preview for many movies, and there were two of them that were made here in Quebec, and I'm like, these two are obviously going to be the cliche Quebecer movies. So how come we get Red Rooms, which is a masterpiece, and then we get all of these movie that are all bland the
Yeah,
same
I don't
way?
know. I mean, there's definitely others that came out, last year that were great. Like, I know Alex put some on his list, but like the Golden Trial or whatever it was called again. But yeah, it's just weird. But this is what happens. Like every country, it's no different. Like that's why Indian movies will suck because uh they all just like support those awful like comedy or action films that are just horrendous and with the big leads and everything, and because of the culture there where it's like they're made into being like stands, and then they're whenever people try to like make serious drama films there, it's like they get no attention, sadly. And that's also the case there. It's also the case in Costa Rica. Like any the rare time where there is homegrown films there, it is just like basic comedy rom-com type stuff for the most part, and very rare, or animated films, very rarely just like anything else. Like there's usually like one or two, like, yeah, basically just like one like serious drama that's like well made per year here.
And the other thing I really enjoyed about Red Room, that's kind of like near the end of what I got to say. I will repeat myself again because you're there now. Um, I enjoy how big is the contrast between both characters. One character has money, the other doesn't. One character believes in fact, the other believes in people, and one of the two character believe in searching and proving something, and the other is just believe it and that's it. And the contrast is big. One is into sport to like ventilate and unleash
Mhm.
what must be unleashed, while the other doesn't really do that much sport. One character disconnect to the story and trial, while the other is turned and changed by said trial. So
Yeah.
this is wonderful. And this is why, to make a good movie, you don't necessarily need many characters. All you need is two strong leads. That's all this movie felt. The other characters, they were plot devices, they were there just to enhance the story, but that was really a story about these two characters, and that was great. And lastly, usually I complain about telling not showing, but this movie would have been too graphic if they showed everything, and the way they told the story was effective, and the way they showed both girls watching that red room scene and with the sound effect and all was effective enough for you
Yeah,
to.
like one clearly enjoyed it.
Yeah, and on top of that, you're like, I don't need to see it just based on their reaction and the sound. I don't need to see it. I know what's going on there, and that's
Hmm.
disgusting. So that's why I gave a pass. And for me, this movie is a solid 10 out of 10. My second favorite movie, and I'd say it's not that far behind Triangle of Sadness. Again, I'm sure if I rewatch Triangle of Sadness and this, maybe I will swap them around and I will like Red Room more. What about you?
Hmm. Yeah, just an excellent film. Yeah, I'd probably rating wise, probably give this like an 8.5. Yeah, really loved it. Definitely like a God. I don't know where it would exactly be on my list, but it's definitely somewhere like in the top 30, which is very high on my thing with how many movies I watched. It's definitely one of the best this year. Yeah,
It's my favorite this year. Triangle of Sadness was
yeah,
last year. This year it's hands down
yeah. It's
Red
going to be
Room.
curious, yeah, like as you see on the schedule on March 5th, we'll be having people make their who show up to the stream make like their top 10 worst movies of the year last year, and then on the 12th their favorite 10. But you can also add like as many honorable mentions and dishonorable mentions as you want, though. But yeah, top 10 mainly.
Sounds fun, man.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that closes off Red Rooms, except if you'd like to add more to Red Rooms.
No, that's about it. I guess we could move on to Black Mirror.
Yeah, Black Mirror, episode 5, season 4. What did you
Right.
think of that?
So I'm guessing you probably weren't as into this just because what it's kind of. This is just something like I assume you wouldn't be as into, but maybe I could have been wrong. But I will just say, like before season 5 happened and season 6, this was to date this along with Waldo. Sorry, whatever. Not Waldo. Sorry, fucking. It was that what it's called? Yeah, the Waldo movement. So I was just double checking. Yeah, these two are like the lowest rated out of all the episodes, lowest received, and yeah, I guess I can understand why. And I would also have to kind of agree. This is one of the weakest ones. It's still solid. I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's a solid episode, and because just the whole show in general is all just very good for the most part. But it is definitely one of the weaker for a reason. It doesn't do anything special. It is just like it's doesn't have like any intellectual or meaningful things or layers it tries going through as the other episodes kind of tried. It's just the basic kind of like slasher post, well, not slasher, but like post-apocalyptic thing, but with
Yeah,
a twist with the future, and just doing that for fun and with a black and white style and everything. I enjoyed it. I get it. It's just it didn't do the best job at it with all the scenes. Definitely could have done a better job. Maybe, and the black and white cinematography wasn't the greatest. But I still thought it was solid. I thought the acting in it was solid. Like she did a great job, portraying, the character in this. And I think just like they do such a good job at making those things such a threat in this, and just so throwing like just how dangerous they are, and how it takes all that work and all that traveling and running away and everything to just kill one of them, and then in the end fucking kills her in the end because of that tracking shit at the end she didn't expect, but just shows how big of a threat it is. But yeah, just so that was incredibly well done and everything, and I did like it. They didn't overstay its welcome. It's one of the shorter episodes in this show's history, so I like that. But yeah, it just isn't the greatest thing. Isn't the most meaningful or memorable. It's just kind of whatever, but still solid. But besides the thing at the end though, which was the reveal of like what was in the box that they were even trying to get at and risk their lives, which was just like those stuffed animal things, as I remember, which the whole point of it at the end though was basically show just like in the end, like even in a post-apocalyptic world like this, like they'll risk their lives just for like that humanity or humility, whatever you call it, thing. Like which something just as like meaningless as that to like some people, but in this time, probably isn't to them. Whether they were getting it, I guess, for like families, kids, or whatever. But yeah, just shows that aspect, and then also how they use that to like their advantage, I guess, in the end of how they killed them. But yeah, very well done in that aspect. But yeah, there's nothing really too special. Well, what do you think? I'm guessing you weren't a big fan of it, but I could be wrong.
you hit a nerve. I wasn't into it, but there's the catch. I tried so hard to tear it apart and find issues because I disliked it. I didn't find any issues, but I didn't like the experience. So I will say like the music and the tension was high. It was entertaining. It wasn't that great as an experience.
Yeah,
Again, I tried to tear it apart. I could not.
yeah,
Maybe
but
it's
it really
because
just doesn't do anything too special though, and I think you know it's worthy of like dropping points off of it. But yeah, I mean, there was one thing that I thought of that could have been a flaw, but I guess not, which is that you know the characters lasted for so long and what feels like a little while, you know, that this shit has been going on for, and yet the one character didn't know, you know, that those things after they get destroyed, those things just spray. But I guess you could say though, like we really don't know the time period and how long it was going on for though, especially because it doesn't really look like it's been for too long. It just looks like a regular abandoned place, and we also don't know if they've actually killed any of those things before, or just been in like hiding and such. So I guess you can't really call it a flaw, but it's just one thing, like maybe.
so. I think the biggest thing with me is I I didn't connect with it at all. Um,
Hmm.
I again I could not find issues, but I didn't connect with it. So maybe because I didn't connect with it, I didn't want to tear it apart. I don't know. The end
Understand.
result, I still gave a 10 out of 10 because I could not find issues. But this is the weakest 10, and I will never rewatch it. And it's a 10 not
Yeah,
because
well,
I liked it, it's because it's flawless. I cannot find issues.
here's the thing. I think the more that you watch shows and the more that you watch movies, you start to realize like there's so many things per year that are technically flawless. Like there's no objective flaws with them usually, outside of like very very strict nitpicks that people make. For whatever that some people like point out, but other people are just like whatever. It's pretty meaningless. So I mean, because of that, I think I think it's important take points off of it if you just didn't resonate with it, because it you'd be handing out like too many tens per year, because there's technically so many things these days that are just like technically flawless, but also because technically a lot of the things that you do criticized sometimes, such as telling instead of showing, can be subjective technically instead of an objective flaw. So I think maybe more you should look more into that. Like if you really didn't resonate with something this much, like this or Saltburn, maybe like take like 2 points off of it, give it like an 8.
No, because now I lose the consistency I usually have.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, just an idea. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I give
I'm
this like a 5 out of 10.
I'm consistent. That's the thing. Nobody can tell me, "Oh, you're not consistent." Yes, I am.
Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, the rating doesn't really matter. More so is like what you have to say. So
I
yeah, I
don't have
guess
much more to say. It's like
yeah, yeah.
that's
It's a
it.
5 out of 10 for me. It's just
Yeah,
whatever episode. But I mean, episode 6, on the other hand, I'd enjoy
much
quite
better.
a lot. Yeah, much better. I have my notes here. I don't know how many I wrote down, but yeah, I mean, this episode that was basically just Netflix trying to relive the success of that White Christmas episode with the multiple stories in the cabin as like a finale thing. Did it work? Well, I wouldn't say to the same extent, although maybe you think so because you weren't as big of a fan of that episode as others and I were, but I wouldn't say to the same extent, but it was well received. And when it comes to my ranking for it, I would have put it above episode 3 and episode 5 of this season and consider it great. I wouldn't put it above the others, but I would overall, though, it's a great episode and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of the stories. I do wish the third was a bit longer, even if it tied into the museum stuff, which extended it. And the second story, I will say they could have. It was one of those things where I feel like they could have turned it into its own separate episode instead of like adding to this, but because there were more things I guess they could have expanded on with that second story, with like the person in the coma and then who ends up in his mind, and then the stuffed animal. But I think it would have just been like pointless filler, so I'm glad they didn't. My This is my only big critique with this entire episode. um the two actors in the one place in real time. I wasn't a fan of either of them. I thought they both did kind of a poor job. Kind of. They weren't terrible or anything. They were all right, but yeah, they could have cast two people there to do a much better job. And in those scenes, I didn't really care about those scenes because of it at all, which doesn't surprise me because the one male actor is like a random, and then the female actor is the amazing lead in Wakanda Forever. So I'm not. Can't say I'm too surprised, but yeah, that would be my only critique of this whole episode. Everything else I loved, and especially that those reveals at the end. So yeah, great episode. What did you think?
I feel you, man. I feel you 100%. I gotta say, this episode for me sits somewhere in the middle. Like, really, like, in the middle. Like, in terms of score, that's amazing because I had no issue whatsoever, but I was entertained. I thought a lot of the side stories they were fun to witness and enjoy, and they were endearing, and the plot twist in the end that she's a daughter and stuff. That was great, and the way she basically uses technology against the guy was wow. And again, the technology in that episode was great because I feel like one day we will be there because that's all mad scientists are. They want so much to like do that kind of stuff that we will eventually do it. Maybe not in the exact same way, but I can bet that eventually it will be a thing for us to do such things. It's not like sci-fi, if you know what I mean. It's sci-fi for now, but it's sci-fi that can actually happen. And again, that captures the idea of Black Mirror because usually Black Mirror is like that. Yeah, it's like that. It's Black Mirror. So that episode, I liked it a lot, but it's in the middle because they're just all of these episodes I like just much more. Um, and the divorce allegory was also great. The lore about consciousness was entertaining. The museum, again, so much to witness. Um, and that guy addicted to pain is like, wow, man. Okay, solid 10 out of 10 because I don't have much more to say, and this one actually feels deserved, unlike the other. What would be your score out of 10 for that one?
I would give it an 8 out of 10. Again, this is my fourth favorite episode in the season, which is nothing to be ashamed of because it was quite a stacked season. I outside of the one episode, I like it more than 5 and 3, but yeah, that's about it.
I don't remember everything about season 3, 2, or
Mm,
1, but I can tell that I enjoyed that season a
yeah.
lot.
Well, if you want me to refresh your memory, episode 1 is like the kind of Star Trek sci-fi thing with the one guy with the at the computers. Episode 2 is the one with like the mother who's obsessed with like with that whole watch thing. Episode 3 was like the one where you can mind look through people's like memory and stuff. To look at like events to solve crimes. Episode 4, I believe, was the Dayton thing, and then episode 5 was the
The
whole
dog
black and
thing.
white one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's more like the other season that I don't quite remember. This season I remember it because we
Hmm.
covered it in the last month, but it's more like season 1, 2, and 3. I remember some episodes I remember liking a lot, like the military one. It's something that really marked me, but I also remember the survival zombie
Hmm.
one, but it's not really survival zombie. It's like the girl is basically guilty of something, and now they
Yeah.
keep playing with her like the kind of zoo, or I don't know. That was a very fun one, but again, I enjoyed this season. I
Hmm.
Based on just like ideas they had this season, I'd say this is probably the best. Maybe 3 come close because of the military episode, but even there, I feel like season 4 was very consistent.
Hmm. Yep, I
So,
agree.
speaking of season 4, next topic, Lucifer season 4.
Right. So yeah, just to speed through this, I guess. But yeah, this still wasn't on par with season 1 or season 2 for me, but it ended up being an improvement over season 3 for me. There were moments where I thought the writing was kind of lazy and they skipped over parts I wish they didn't, and then I was afraid they were going to, but the way they still executed the scenes they did touch on were a lot better and well written in comparison to season 3. I liked the song choices they played in the season. I thought it fit well with the emotions and with what the lyrics said. The filmmaking and visuals didn't really do anything for me, similar to Luke Cage, but it wasn't terrible. I thought the CGI was a big improvement. It was still a bit rough around the edges, but it worked overall. I'm glad they also lowered the episode total from a fucking ridiculous 26 to just 10 now. That just fixed so many issues with the filler and pacing and everything. It just made it a lot more better quality. I enjoyed also seeing his full devil form this season as well. The characters weren't the greatest in this season when it came to progression, but it ended up working for the majority of them because a lot of them didn't need any more for this particular season because a lot of them were still, were good as they were. Like I wasn't a fan of Dan though. Was my least favorite part of this season. My least favorite character, Dan. Lucifer and Ella were strong, solid, but not my favorites in this season. They fixed all the issues with Chloe's character and actually made her good again. And that was probably my second favorite character in this season. And then my favorite character this season was Amenadiel. I think I butchered that name, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I will
Yeah,
also butcher it. I
yeah,
think
I
everyone
loved I
butchers
loved all of his scenes though this season, and he had great emotional moments too. So yeah, overall it was fairly entertaining, and they fixed many of the issues in season 3 that I was afraid would continue after the ending we got in season 3. It still isn't anything as good as the previous seasons were, but it's good enough. And as for the episodes. I forgot to write them down, but I do remember the episodes of season 4. So I'll just like pull up the IMDb and remember. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, my favorite episodes were episode 3,
Okay.
episode 7, and
Okay.
and episode 5. And my least favorite were episode 1, episode 6, and episode 2.
That's interesting. I like it. I like it so much. So
Yeah, because
before I let you guess, I will talk about it, and then before I reveal it, I will let you guess because I think here you have a very fair chance to at least hit the targets on the ones I like. Maybe not the one I disliked, but yeah. Do you want to add more about season 4?
no, that's about it. But yeah, I guess I'll just like guess. But I mean, I will just. I don't know completely, but I mean, just for me, like again, the first 2 episodes I didn't like as much just because it continued with like skipping over things I didn't like in season 3. But after that, I thought like the rest of like the season and the beginning and such was the best part of it. And then I thought like the later half of it was a little bit weaker, but still good. But that's just me. But for you though, I'll say your least favorites were, and again, this is just like at random. Like, despite like knowing what you like, when it comes to this, I still fucking forget. So it's mostly just like at random with what I think with specific aspects you might have like liked or disliked a lot. But anyway, so I'll say your least favorites were episode 8, episode 1, and episode 4, and then I'll say your favorites were episode 5, episode 7, and episode 9.
You are so close, man. Um, so I will start by saying that season 1 and 2 are masterpiece. They are leagues ahead of 4, but 4 is, just as a viewer and as someone that experienced the show, maybe my favorite. Not as a critique, because I have a valid critique and some of the weaker episodes do have issues, but just as a viewer, it's probably my favorite. But because I try to be critic and more objective and stuff, even if it's really art with arts, I'd say this season is weaker than 1 and 2. But again, as a fan of the show, season 4 feels like the perfect ending for the show. I am really wondering what they will be doing for season 5 and 6. I'm actually worried because I feel like maybe 6 should be like about Lucifer maybe trying to find a replacement, someone else that could sit on that throne in L so he can be free and live among the men and stuff because he loves Chloe so much. And I feel like season 5 should explore like the world without Lucifer now and how Chloe deals with that, and maybe Chloe trying to go in L to convince Lucifer to leave L and that kind of stuff. That could be interesting. So I can see interesting stuff happening in season 5 and 6, but with the conclusion of season 4, I feel like they kind of burned some step where they did what I thought they would do in the last season, which is like sending back Lucifer to L and making him instead of being forced, making him choose to go there to help and protect. So I always felt like at some point, either in season 5 or 6, he would go back in L because now he's like, oh, I don't want it, but I need to do it for the greater good, and this is why I do it. I always felt like that was kind of the end point of Lucifer. So seeing him season 4 doing that, I was shocked it was that early, but I knew that day would come, and I knew that would be part of his character arc. Anyhow, that out of the way, my worst 3 episodes are episode 4, and I will look into my notes to find out why. So, episode 4, I gave episode 4 a solid 9.7 out of 10. And my issue would be plot convenience, bumping into detective living at the place. So I think I remember this quite well. That was when Lucifer and Eve were doing their own investigation while the police department also did their own. And they did kind of separate way because that's after Lucifer realized, oh, Chloe doesn't necessarily accept him the way he is, and that took Chloe the entire season to actually accept him the way he is. But yeah, at that point in the show, there was that kind of disconnect between Lucifer and Chloe, and that was part of their great character story relationship shenanigans. So yeah, one issue, and it's a solid 9.7, and that's my least favorite episode this season. Number 2 would be looking into my note. Number 2 in the worst 3 would be episode 6, and I will look into my notes. This is another 9.7 out of 10, and my only issue is people cannot freaking aim, but I see a lot of stuff I liked. So I also see Eve growth, but Eve is something I will mention a bit later. She is something. Anyhow, the last place in my worst 3 would be episode 9. And episode 9, okay, I gave another 9.7. And my issue with this episode would be Eve feels one-dimensional. Her only trait is wanting Lucifer, and that what made her entire character for the entire freaking season. At first it's charming. You're like, oh, she's cool and she is this and that. But no, that's all she is. She doesn't feel like a character at all. She feels like that underdeveloped being, that plot device in the show. No, it just doesn't work. So now, my top 3. Um Episode 7 is my favorite this season. And I will also add this, it's in my top 10 favorite episode in the show so far. So it's a rock solid episode. I really enjoyed. That was an amazing one, and I was so excited to see what happens next after that one. I was like, wow, man. Eve being a really bad influence for Lucifer was accurate, and the relationship depicted as a toxic relationship was also great. So again, I don't really like Eve as a character, but I did enjoy what she brought. Um, Second place in my top three would be episode 3. And that one was rock solid. Perfect ending. Uh, there was a lot of emotion going on. And I will also add this. Throughout that season, I did tear up a few times. I felt so many things throughout that season. Lucifer is so relatable because he can be one of us under worse circumstance. That's just Lucifer. And that's why I enjoy this show so much. The characterization of the lead is wonderful. And a lot of people do hate themselves. And it's just very accurate. So in third place in my top three would be episode 5. So we actually have the same top 3 episode. Um, that one was rock solid. Again, amazing episode. I enjoyed it so much. And when Lucifer realized Chloe cares about him was wonderful. Really wonderful. And all of the therapy throughout the season was well written, well made. Um, and I have two honorable mention. Episode 10 and episode 8. These two, sadly, they didn't make the cut. They didn't make the cut because I did add issues with these two. But there were solid episodes. As a viewer, it was my favorite this season. As a critique, I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. And these two episodes are really like so good. Like again, as a viewer, this is peak entertainment. I'm like, okay, if a normie asks me which episode should he watch 8 and 10. Even if it's not best episode that season, it's the most relatable ones. I just liked it so much, but again, it's not the best episode that season, but it's my favorite. Again, it's like me when I say, "Oh yeah, that's a good movie I didn't like," but here it's not necessarily a bad episode, but it's not a masterpiece episode. But I feel like it the at the right place. Um, so yeah, okay. Now after finishing season 4, my top 10 is um first place, season 2 episode 13 remains there. Second place, season 1 episode 12. Third place, season 3 episode 23. Fourth place, season 2 episode 10. Fifth place, season 2 episode 6. Sixth place, season 4 episode 7. It almost made the cut there, but it didn't. Um, in seventh place, season 1, episode 7. I feel like there's a 7 trend here. Uh, eighth place, season 1, episode 2. Ninth place, season 3, episode 24. And last place in my top 10, season 2, episode 5. So I got a lot to say. You mentioned Dan. So I will defend Dan a second because I feel like he deserves it. So finally a good season for Dan. Since season 1 he got his best material. He did feel like someone that had this struggle and arc. He was made unlikable in purpose to give a very gratifying ending of his arc about closure. Dan got huge growth where he stopped lying to others and being in the dark place. He did put his worst feeling into others, just like Lucifer. Lucifer used to do it all the time, but like Dan was almost bold the same way because of the struggle he's been through hell, just like Lucifer, and this is why Dan is there. He got proper closure with Charlotte, showing how to not handle suffering. It was a perfect example that okay, if you're in grief and struggle, don't act like him, because a lot of people will be tempted to act like him. In short, Dan was in grief and he changed him in all of the wrong ways. And the moment he realizes it's not Lucifer's fault, it's his fault, is great. So after my defense about Dan, do you have any different feeling toward the season?
From like this season.
Yeah, Dan. So Dan, you said you didn't like Dan. So did you
Yeah, I'm
understood
sorry.
well?
It's just kind of, how do I say? She was just like pretty annoying. I don't. How do I like try to explain maybe like a little deeper? I just he all the things with Dan that they did was just repeating the same exact thing to me. Like I get what they were doing and with him, like and him and his interactions with like Lucifer and such, but it was just constantly the same shit with like nothing new. It was like getting bland and just annoying, like, and I felt nothing from it because it was just poorly done in my opinion. Like there was really no logic to his character in this season. He did, better near the end because they actually gave him more to do. But yeah,
So how did you feel about him in season 3 and 2?
liked him better. He was never like really my favorite character, but I liked him a lot more. I believe he was like even possibly one of my favorites in one of those seasons.
In season 1, he was one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like he fell off starting season 2. They kind of forgot he existed, or he
Honestly, it would
was
have been better if they just like killed him off, but I don't know.
That's dark. The kid is now losing her father because they don't know what to do with him in the show.
Yeah, well, whatever. But anyway,
But
yeah.
yeah, I felt like that was his first good season in a long time. So that's interesting how we contrast each other there. Um, so I will mention my big issue with this season. Eve character feel more like an idea and a plot device than a character. Even if she got growth, her character arc and writing was poorly handled, making her a weak character. A lot of focus was given to her, making the issue worse. What do you think of that statement?
No, I agree.
Like, that's really my biggest gripe with this season.
Hmm.
And again, this is of that big gripe, this big issue that I placed that season behind 1 and 2, because I do think they are superior season. I didn't add these issues. I had individual
Yeah, I
issues
don't
with.
think they were like as polished. Like I think they, in my opinion, but I just think like how do I say it? There was just missed opportunities with it, and also just in filmmaking wise and everything because I don't think they had as big of budgets then. But I think though just the execution and a lot of the writing and acting and such was like a lot better in those seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
But
there were definitely missed opportunities with it still, but what they chose to roll with still was super well written. So
so that's interesting how I mentioned Ella in season 2 and 3. She had nothing, and season 2, that was her first season, so I did let it slide. And in season 3, I was like, okay, now that's an issue. We had 2 full seasons of her, and she didn't get any growth. Plot twist: this season, Ella had better characterization.
yeah,
That felt great. I liked so much more this Ella than Ella in season 2 and 3. Now I feel like they realize, okay, we did nothing with her for 2 seasons. We need to do something with her. And this is my first like of that season. Ella character finally got some growth, losing her faith and then realizing missing faith is like missing a part of herself. It was so endearing because I feel like some people that used to be faithful that are no longer faithful, I can bet they felt the same kind of experience where, Oh, I do miss the big guy. It's like, wow. And it's coming from me, and I don't really believe in anything because I feel like if you believe in something, then you tell the others they are all liar, because all of the religion they have the same idea, the same message, but different approach to it. So I feel like if you stick to one, you think yours is better than the others. Well, it's all the same thing, and I just feel like we don't have all of the answers, and it's not believing into something that will get these answers because it's fate. It's all about what you think in the moment. So yeah, I don't really believe in that kind of stuff, but I could see why people are believing in something. This is why her character, Ella character, was so good because she was defined by her fate in season 2 and 3, and now after all of the horrifying things she experienced in the show, she is like, man, I think we are like responsible. We are guilty. We create our own issues. There's no bigger strength. There's no big person that has a plan or anything. And when she needs that fate, she realizes she missed that fate. So that's great characterization. So Ella, what did you think of her this season?
Ella, yeah, I thought she was again solid. Same with Lucifer. I just they didn't really, I would say, did anything like too different with her. I just think they executed her character better. I just think that the writing was a lot better, the performance was a lot better. Like I don't think they did anything like too different with it compared to like season 2 or season 3. She was just improved on his all, and the same kind of goes for Lucifer, where they didn't like do anything different with him this season. They just improved the actor and writing just improved even more with him, and he was already like amazing. So yeah, ended up being good again.
Yeah, so next up would be Chloe. Character felt real. Her character arc was even better. She
Yeah.
struggled with Lucifer bad side until she accepts it. And this is relatable. In the end, she
Hmm.
loses Lucifer because of said bad side. And it broke my heart. That last scene where Lucifer is like, you're my first love. And it's endearing because they spent 4 seasons building on that relationship, and it was well written. I think their core relationship was one of the best relationship we had on screen in like most shows and movies. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. Again, I didn't like her in season 3, but in season 4, this was a huge improvement. Ended up being my second favorite character in the season.
Yeah, and I also felt like the entire time they were that huge contrast where Lucifer always depicted himself as that monster, as that bad person because he's the devil, and there's always Chloe that was like, "Not for me. This not how I see you." And this really feels like true love, and this is just great characterization, and their bond, it feels genuine. It's just how you make relationship work in a show. Like, if you're about love, you need to understand love. So that's just props here. Respect, guys and girls behind the show. So next up would be, I did tear up a lot and I did feel a lot of things while watching this amazing season. So again, just as a viewer, it's my favorite season. As a critique, it's a step down from season 1 and 2, but a massive step up if we compare to season 3. So next up would be Lucifer. Character arc was perfection, realizing he needs to go back in hell to save everyone. Now, instead of like being forced, instead of like someone taking away his free will, he has his free will back, and he chooses to go in hell to protect others. And we are no longer with that Lucifer that's all about him. Now it's about others. He realizes that if he does whatever he wants, he puts in danger people he cares about. It's no longer the Lucifer that wants to defy God. It's the Lucifer that realizes, damn, his action have consequence on others. What do you think of that statement?
Yeah,
Cool.
no, I agree. Yeah, once again.
Uki. Next up would be the villain with the priest was just amazing. Twisting fanatic on a brilliant
I
way.
agree. I really enjoyed that. Added a lot. There are so many things that they could have done with it, and luckily they did. They did reach the potential of this villain.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it puts you like where it questions legends and fairy tale and stories. You're like, there's always many sides. When you ask the priest, the devil is evil incarnate, but then you ask the devil himself, which is the main actor. He's like, no, I didn't like doing what they tell I liked. How can they tell I like it? They are not me. It's like, wow, characterization. People behind this show are clever, they are smart. So again, I will never praise this show enough. I like it so much. I think based on all of these 4 seasons, it's probably my favorite comic book show, far above Doom Patrol. And Doom Patrol was like one of my top picks. And it's also better than Stargirl. And again, Stargirl was like one of my favorite as well. So next up would be Amadil. Character arc shown how different he became, solidifying him as someone that now roots for a human despite seeing them at their worst, breaking the perfect image he had on their world. Because you remember when he came on Earth season 1, he was looking down on human. He was like, "Oh, these are primitive," and then with season 2, he's kind of forced into living among them, and now he lived among them for like we don't know how long in the show's period of time, but like in seasons, he spent 3 seasons with them, and now he realized the beauty and how he was wrong. And now this season, when he gets attached to that kid and he loses the kid, he's like, oh my, that perfect image I had is broken. I got destroyed. And then he got his son, and another angel that reflects what he used to be comes here and clashes that idea. And at the end of the season, when he realized this is the humans and Lucifer that helped him saving his child, he realized, dang, that's the right place. Even if it's ugly and not perfect, it's a good place to be in. And we are the best suited to protect. So you said you liked Amadil. Would you like to build upon Amadil?
Oh, sorry, my thing lagged out a bit. What were you saying?
So I mentioned Amadil and his character arc, and you mentioned liking him a lot. So do you want to build more upon that?
Yeah, I just thought his character progression was really good, and I just thought the the things he did, like the scenes and the the emotion in them were like really powerful, and his performance was super good. Like there was that one scene with yeah, the one teen he protected. I really loved that scene, and it was like my favorite moment of the season.
Yeah, it was so sad. It's also one of my favorite, and this scene solidify him as now he sees the worst in the human after living with them, after thinking, "Oh, I was wrong. They're perfect." Now you realize they're not really perfect, and that's really part of like his arc because
Yeah.
the end point is him realizing, despite the bad, it's the right place. It's the right call. They are wonderful people, even if some of them are wrong. They are wonderful people out there. That's amazing. Um, the next up would be the toxic relationship of two dependent lovers was well written. How each other worst side did fuel each other. It was very relatable. And here I mentioned Eve and Lucifer. It's endearing. It's so relatable. She is so toxic. Like always texting, always like being that bad influence on Lucifer, and they were feeding each other, like they were both doing like these bedroom fun party with bunch of people. Like that was an allegory to tell, oh yeah, they encourage each other worse behavior, so they are kind of stuck in that kind of circle where it's them, 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 and that poisons both of them in the process. So what did you think of that approach and aspect to love relationship?
Yeah, I like that. Liked it a lot. I think it was done well. Like there were things like that in season three I didn't think were executed well. I get what they were going for. I just didn't like the execution of them. But in this, it was totally different, and I think it's just because it was more enclosed since there were less episodes. I think that was again just the biggest issue with season three. There were just too many episodes.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Eve, yes, they were in love at some extent, but that wasn't a deep love. That was a very superficial love where Eve liked the old Lucifer, the Lucifer she met before Lucifer met Chloe. And she kind of reunites and she kind of bring back the Lucifer we had in season one. And that was part of that Lucifer character arc where this season that was a roller coaster for him. Like it started off like it was on a weird place with Chloe, but it was on a good place with Eve. And in the end, that all kind of went boom. You realize, oh, I'm this, I'm that. Um, so yeah, next up would be May's growth was amazing. She used to not care about anybody. She used to do her own thing. And now she wants to be so involved with that newborn that Linda is like, yeah, just let me breathe, give me some breathing space. And we had some very funny moment with these two. Like it was so endearing, really. Maze, what did you think of Maze this season?
Mate, sorry, who again?
Maze, the demon.
Oh, right, yeah. I, yeah, liked Maze this season.
She was great. I think that's her best season since probably season one, maybe two.
I would agree. And again, I just think it's the stuff that they did with Lucifer that really elevated that character as well.
Yeah, that was very endearing. Next up would be the message about true love were great. And I kind of touched upon it.
Yeah.
Lucifer kind of hated himself, and Chloe still liked him despite that. He could see the worst in himself while Chloe was seeing the best in himself. And that was a power. That was like, um, Chloe is like the light I need to feed on, and Eve was more like the dark part he was feeding on. The season was consistent and solid. The action was great. I'd say the action was probably slightly better than three, and three had the best action so far. So I'd say the action this season was on point. What did you think of the action overall?
Yeah, I liked the action. I don't think it was the strongest part in this season, though. I do think it was done better in other seasons, but I still like it. There was better, again, there's better, the better CGI, I think, helped at moments, and there was better choreography, but the filmmaking and aspect of all that, I made it a little weaker for me, but it was still well done.
And next up would be even the weakest episode had amazing content to offer. I felt like that was really good. I had a blast again. The next up would be the message about friendship were great. Sometimes you need certain people around, like when Lucifer was all in pieces and um Trixie decided to go visit him, and then she kind of convinced him and she kind of like gave him a better mood, if we can call it that way. That was so endearing. That was great. um Next up would be, I had seen coming the great plot twist with Lucifer admitting Chloe was his first love. I did see it coming, but that doesn't mean it's bad. um So yeah, I will mention here something worth mentioning. One of the best line told this season. Lucifer saying he don't like what he becomes when he's with Eve. That was impactful. And I can't remember in which episode exactly that was, but he asked Linda, why do I hate myself so much? Again, this as character depth. This was great. What did you think of the two lines I just mentioned? Cole?
Oh shit!
Cool.
Sorry, my fucking I muted by accident. But yeah, again, I thought it was great. Again, I think it was it was trying to do things that it also kind of did similar in other seasons, but in this one it was just done way better.
Yeah, and it's impressive how his powers were growing in episode 9, and it was going out of control. Um, Again, this season, rock solid. I am excited for season 5, but I'm also worried because we had such a great season. Um, I'd say the show could have ended here with season 4. What did you think of that statement?
Yeah, it could have. I don't know what they're going to do in the next two seasons. I don't know if they're going to just like continue doing the same exact thing because there wasn't some character evolution with like kind of Lucifer to me and like another character. So I'm a little afraid like the next two seasons are just going to be kind of doing the same stuff, almost like a CW show, but hopefully not. But yeah, they could have ended it here and would have been happy.
Yeah, like I think that's also what they were doing when they wrote this season. They were like, "We are Netflix. We don't know if we will get canceled, so let's just end the story here." But then they realized, "Oh, we got a fifth season. Oh, we got a sixth season." So again, I think the only way to push further Lucifer now that he has chosen to go back is number one, maybe making go back on Earth after he experienced hell and force him to go back again, so it's even harder for him to leave again. And the other thing is, um, maybe send Chloe there so she will try to bring him back. But yeah, the last thing I could picture is final season. Maybe we'll try to find an heir or someone that could take his spot, and L would be in the right end, if you know what I mean. That could be an interesting thing. Maybe Amadil could take Lucifer's spot, if you know what I mean. Now I just theorize, but that's hilarious if I'm right. But yeah, Lucifer, amazing show. This season for me is a solid 9.7 out of 10. And again, my only issue is really Eve. She was poorly written and she didn't feel like a character. She only felt like a plot device. But this season, just in terms of enjoyment, peak. It's my favorite, but it's not the best. Uh, what would be your score out of 10?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mike muted again by accident. My bad. But yeah, anyway, I gave like the first two seasons like an 8 out of 10, and then I gave the third like a 6 out of 10. So for this one, I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Well deserved, well earned. I'm looking forward for season 5. I will start watching once I'm done watching the
Yeah,
movies
well,
for
I've
next week.
watched the first two episodes of it. So far, it's pretty good. On par with season four to me, but we'll see. You know how the rest of it goes. I am afraid that they're just gonna kind of continue, just like not doing anything huge compared to like season one and season two, like what it was trying to set up. I'm a little afraid of that, and it's just gonna be like one of those like fucking CW shows. But hopefully, but even then, worst case scenario, you know, it's still good at least what they're doing. You know, sort of like Resident Alien, I guess. So yeah, we'll see.
I'd say it's better than Resident Alien. I like this
Mhm.
show much more.
Well,
It's
I like season one more than any season of Lucifer, but you know every other season of Lucifer I like more than season 2 of Resident Alien. I mean,
Yeah.
I gave season 2 like a 6 out of 10, which yeah, but it's a lower one than season 3 for me.
Yeah. Well, that I had a blast talking about this for season 4. Looking forward to season 5. And again, Cole, you're amazing. And I hope your paper stuff will go well. Any closing thoughts before we end?
No, that's about it. But yeah, gonna be probably in the voice chat in like 5 minutes with Joker if he's online right now. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, nothing else really. I will just say, okay, I don't think it should have like any interruption with like the stream dates anyway. But yeah, I think I am I need to go to the border of Panama with some friends to hopefully for the last time for my fucking for passport things on the 27th and the 28th. So I already said before that I no guarantee at this point for any other Tuesdays that I'll show up. So that's why I'm just gonna write all the notes in advance for you and everything else. But especially that day though, if it's on any stream day like the 27th or the 28th, then yeah, I 100% can't. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's a stream day.
Okay,
I'm
I just checked. It is the 27th, but okay.
Okay, yeah, it's the 20 cents, so that's tight. But yeah, as long as you send notes, and again, I will repeat myself. You are the co-founder of this podcast, so when you will have more time, you will always be the welcome again, bro.
Yeah.
And when you have more time, when you feel better in life, allows you to do so. But you can always come back at us and be part of the bigger planning.
Yeah.
There's always a place for
Yeah.
Cole.
For sure. Like again, I don't know like what will happen at this point. Like again, I could show up still more often than usual or not more often than usual from here on out. I could like, show up for like the odd topic but not all of them on like most stream days or just like for all of them on the rare stream day. I could sometimes send notes for things. Sometimes I could, but I just decide not to bother. Like I don't know at this point, it will just be random. But yeah, we'll see. Either way, though, I just definitely can't be like a regular anymore in the terms of like watching everything every week anymore. Like because there's
Yeah,
definitely just some weeks where like even if I'm not like busy at all or anything, because it's still not like anything like time constraint wise or anything is changing. I just need to do other things now, and so yeah.
but I'm wondering, yeah, will you be able to cover season 5 and 6? That's the true question.
Yes, I will. I'm probably
Okay,
gonna like binge it all, but yeah, I will write that up for you.
okay, perfect. Because I feel like this will probably be like one of the last big shows with Walking Dead, because I know DC has
Yeah,
seen most of Walking Dead, but this will
yeah,
be like, and at least in a while, the last big show we cover. And this is a
yeah,
bit sad, but that's very understandable.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, in fairness, so when it comes to like comic book shows, like at least ones that are like based on like powers and stuff like that, this is pretty much like the last one that's like
yeah,
the last popular one that we haven't covered yet. We covered all the MCU ones. Well, sorry. Well, we covered all the Marvel ones, and we covered all the DC ones. We covered all like the Dark Horse ones. It's really the only. It's really only like the obscure ones, or like the very old ones, or ones that are like, that are like comic booky, but not like in the same way, such as The Walking Dead, that we just
yeah,
haven't covered yet. Like even the Netflix ones we covered, and so we basically got to cover all of them before this happened, so that's good. Got through pretty much all of them. I guess you could count the MCU shows though, but since they're smaller, I mean, it basically like movies, but
yeah.
yeah,
Anyhow,
yeah.
this marks
I'll be sure to watch it all, but yeah.
this marks the end of this current stream. Thank you a lot, Cole. You're amazing as
Yeah,
usual.
Yeah, and